Okay, so we've now got the center crankcase all ready. Done all the things that we needed to do to it to get ready to put the crankshaft in. And so it's all clean and everything. We've got the new big end shells here. Sorry, main bearing shells here. Here's a couple of the older ones. Compare them. Let's see if we can get them in the light. You can see that these are pretty worn. Unlike the big end shells, that's what the new one looks like. These main bearing shells are worn down pretty much to the you can see the copper or wherever it is underneath. So they're quite worn. So we've got the new shells. These are 10 thou over or 10 thou for a regrind that's 10 thou under, and we know that because we've got the right part number for a 10 thou over shells. And we're going to clip those in just like we did for the crankshaft. We're going to make absolutely sure that there's nothing, no grit or anything, so we can put the shells on and they'll go on okay. Notice that in all the shells there is an oil hole. That's in all of them. I say that because obviously that's the main oil way. That's where the oil comes up straight from the pump. It comes up, it goes to the mains, and then from the mains it goes to the big ends. As the first place it goes to, because that's where we want the oil pressure. But of course, in the top of the caps, there is no oil way. So we don't really need a hole because there's no hole in the top. But they do them like this because I'm sure back in the day they used to do two with a hole in that went in the bottom and two without a hole in that went in the top, or at least for other bikes I've worked on. But I think they stopped doing that. A, it's probably easier to make the shells all the same, and B, to stop the slightly idiotic people putting the shell in without the hole at the bottom, because then we have nightmare, because of course the oil can't get through then. So if they make them all with holes in, you can't really get it wrong. Anyway, right, so I'm just going to do a final clean. I've already cleaned it, but I'm going to do a final clean on here to make sure that the shells are going to sit really nicely and that there's no grit or anything. Okay, and then we're just going to clip the shell in. Again, we've got a little tang on the shell which goes with a cutout on the casing. There we go. And so that one's in. Turn it round, and we'll do the other one. Again, I'm just going to make sure there's no grit or anything, and get these bearings, making sure they're sitting absolutely flush. Good. Okay, and then we've got the next shell, and that's just going to clip in. Again, get the tang lined up. And there we go, in it goes. Brilliant. Now I could put some oil down, but I'm not going to do that because my experience, I put oil down, it just comes out the bottom anyway. And if we put enough assembly lube on that, and then we turn the engine over with the plugs out just on the starter when it's all finished to pump the oil around, then I think that works okay. So there's no need necessarily to prime. Well, not in my book. I mean, I keep meaning to say this and I keep forgetting. Don't forget, these videos are my way of doing things, which could be, there could be better ways of doing things. I'm not an engineer. Some of the stuff I tell you might not be factually accurate, shall we say. This is the way I do it. You watch these videos, then you might want to watch other people's videos and decide, oh, well, that's actually a better way of doing it or whatever. Okay, so this is the way that I do it. So when the engine's finished, we'll turn the engine over on the starter and with the plugs out, and that will just serve to feed the oil round. And then when the oil is definitely circulating, then we can start the engine. And I think that having the assembly lube in is enough. Like I say, I have tried to fill engines with oil before, and it just tends to, before you've assembled it, it just tends to fall out, run out. Okay, so then I've got the assembly lube on there. I've got assembly lube on the mains, on the crankshaft. So we're simply going to lift the crankshaft in now. I'll put it round. Actually, I'll put it round that way because that's the right way of the engine. So the timing side is going to be on the right, the drive side on the left. Okay, can we see this? So we've got the crankshaft, drive side on the right, and what we're going to do, we're going to lift it in. Now, if I can just zoom in a bit, or we can just look at the crankshaft a bit. The crankshaft will only fit in. If we look at the crankshaft, there are massive cutaways. You see this these centre webs here. They've been cut away both sides. Whereas if you look at it from, then it's not cut away at either end. So what we have to do is we have to turn the crankshaft so the cutaway bits of the central sort of flywheels here are going to line up with the hole in the crankcase. And that means that there's a couple of long studs. I always forget which side it is. Is it timing side? I can never remember. There's two long studs that go in, and we have to take those out because in order to turn the crankshaft to get it in the right place to go in the crankcase, if we've still got those two long studs, then the time, I think it's the timing side, then that bit of the crankshaft will not go in between the two long studs. So you have to if you've got them in, you have to take those long studs out before we put the crankshaft in. Okay, right, but they are out. So I've turned the crankshaft, and I'll try and make sure I've got the con rods out of the way. Okay, yeah, and we simply just lower it down. You see those? And we simply just lower it down. Come on, don't tell me I've got to take that out as well. Why isn't that not going down? That's not going down because it's catching on the dowel. I can't, I'm sure I don't have to take that out. Come on, what are you doing? Why aren't you going in for me? Oh, I'm jammed now. Anyhow, why do things on camera? Why do I bother doing things on camera? We're jammed, why are we jammed? We're jammed on that stud, but on that down. I've got this engine around the right way, haven't I? I have, yeah. I'm just trying to work out why I'm catching on that down. Ah, I know. There we go. Right, you see what I've done wrong there is I've lined up the centre webbing there so it slides in, but I've got to turn it 180 degrees there, I think, so that end should now not catch. It's catching on that locating dowel there. So hopefully now I've turned it 180 degrees, it should go in. I hope. I think that was the problem. Yeah, that was the problem. Yeah. So you have to turn the crankshaft so that's right, but you have to turn it so that this side is sticking that way. Otherwise it catches on there. You see, I've never known that before. I've probably just been lucky before and just always got it around the right way by accident. And there we've got the crankshaft sitting in the centre crankcase. And what we're going to do now is we're going to put the caps on. So exactly the same as for the crankshaft, we clean the caps to make sure that they're going to seat, and there's no grit or anything behind where the shells are going to sit. And then we put the, just like before, we just push the shells in, just clip in like that. I'm also just cleaning the mating faces there, because obviously if there's grit there, that'll stop them clamping together. Okay, there we go, and they're just pushed in. Great, so they're ready to go on. Now they have to go around the right way and on the right side. So if you see very clearly stamped on the top, it says D2757 and T2757. So 2757, yeah, is the number stamped on the crankcases. So when they're line bored, these caps go with this crankcase. D, drive side, T, timing side. So we know that that's the drive side cap and this is a timing side. And we do it so that it's in line with the engine. In other words, the timing cap goes on with a T to the front of the engine. It doesn't go on with a T to the back of the engine. So timing side on the timing side, and with a T at that end, and the D, the driving side cap, that end. Yeah, good. Okay, so we're going to put some assembly lube again on the caps. And then we're just going to try and slot them in. Sometimes they don't like going down. And I might, there it goes. It's just about gone. Good. A bit more awkward getting them off, but they not too bad pushing them back on again. Sometimes they really don't want to come off because the bolts kind of catch on the holes. Okay, assembly lube on, timing side, T at the front. Okay, and there we go. So the caps are now loosely in position. Can we see that? I think we can. So then we have these locking tabs. Okay, and they sit over the end of the caps like that. It's got these wings on, and the wings go over the side of the caps. Okay, there we go. And then we've got the main bearing nuts, and I've got some high strength Loctite now, which is what I use for the big end bearings as well, big end nuts. So I'm going to use the high strength again. I'm going to use this for the for these cap nuts for the main bearings. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned, I have checked all these threads. I did run a tap or a die rather down these threads before, so I know that the threads are all okay. Yeah. Just making sure I'm going to put these the right way up. They've got like lettering on the top. I'm going to put the lettering to the top so that the flatter side is facing the the cap. Okay, the other side. These nuts are going to be locked, of course, anyway, but I prefer to put some Loctite on. Then I better belts and braces approach, I guess. I have to say that half the problem is you're doing an engine for someone else, and then you feel like double the responsibility. You know, if it was my engine and it buggered up, oh bloody hell, I buggered it up. But if it's someone else's engine, then you feel really totally responsible. So you need to make sure it's right. Okay. I'm just checking we're turning before I, checking everything's right before I carry on and tighten these up. If there was something wrong, it's just easier to take it apart now rather than when everything's tightened up. Yeah, we're okay. Get the torque wrench out, and these nuts are 18. These are 18. Okay. I think we're quite a long way off still. Someone's coming home. Yeah, that's okay. Turns nicely, yeah. Right, let's torque them up. 18. Double check we're on 18 on the torque wrench. Yep. Get the torque wrench round the right way. Hello. One side done. Oh dear. Well, we know the crankshaft turning. That one done. And that one done. Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah. Oops. Yeah. It's a nice turning crankshaft. Yeah, that's nice. It's tight. You sort of can feel it tight, but it's not too tight. Yeah. A little bit of end float, which is good. Okay, so there we go. So there's the we're in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn up the locking tabs on the nuts, and then we're done. So let's see if I get this right. I normally use a pair of pliers, depends how big it is. If I can get the pliers on, this is quite a big gap, so I'm not sure I can. There we go. Okay. And just I'll lock it on, and I'll tap it round. I'll give it a final tap in a minute. But that's what I normally do, is use a pair of pliers, get it on a flat if we can, and use the pliers to bend it, and then give it a tap at the end, just to make sure it's fully locked. Okay, you can put both up. I might put both up, depends, or just put one up. I'll see. I think one is fine, to be honest, but I might put both up just to be on the safe side. So I'll do all that, and then that's done.